Thank you all very much for coming. My name is Dan Enthoven. I work at Domino Data Lab, and I'll do the introduction, a little bit of emceeing during the day. Really glad that folks could make it. I'll tell you, I just had a big, exciting anniversary. On last Saturday was my 4-year anniversary at Domino, which, as everyone knows, like in high tech, is like an infinity of time. And it's amazing what a difference 4 years makes. When I first started at Domino, there was like 4 or 5 of us, and literally we had a folding table and a shared workspace, and that was it. And our first San Francisco pop-up, which was probably about 3 years ago maybe, was in the basement of Galvanize, and it was with a bunch of drinks from that we picked up at Trader Joe's on the way in. So this is much fancier. We're going to the Tonga room, which I'm looking forward to. And I remember Nick Alperin and I used to sit around and talk about what should we call Domino. Like, is this a data science platform, or is it a workbench, or is it something totally different? And it was funny because we'd say, well, no one even knows what data science platform is. That's like a meaningless phrase. And of course now Gartner has a magic quadrant on it, and Forrester has a thing on it, and everyone calls themselves that. But 4 years ago, no one really knew. Another big difference is like who we're working with. So this actually isn't even like half our customers at this point. It's amazing what we've been able to do across industries: banking, insurance, asset management, life sciences. All these different companies are now working with Domino. And I love it because it's really interesting. Like, going out and talking about their use cases and what kind of problems they're solving and how they're doing it is amazing. But it's also really interesting to me because it's so many different companies are kind of on this journey of becoming model driven and figuring out what they need to do to really get good at data science. There's one company in particular I want to mention, which is Dealer Tire. People may not have heard of Dealer Tire. I certainly hadn't heard of them before I came across them at Domino. But they work with car dealers, and they use predictive models to understand when somebody who bought a new car is going to need new tires. And so they have like car model data and weather data and demographic, like is this an old person or a young person, and all these things. And interestingly, the data science team then recommends like when to kick off the ad campaign and what the offers should be like. And they measure the uplift they get in their sales from that. And the data science team at Dealer Tire has a quota just like the sales team. And so that to me is really interesting because that says, wow, companies are really adopting data science. But it's more interesting is I told that story to someone a couple of weeks ago who was running a small data science team at a company. And he goes, that's exactly where I want my team to be. Like, that's what I want. And it's interesting because it really is a thing now where people are recognizing that data science and predictive analytics done right can have an incredible impact on the business. And we'll talk more about that. But another interesting thing that I've seen over the last 4 years is this kind of debate, right? So Gartner, a while ago, came up with this idea of a citizen data scientist. And this is the person who can generate models but doesn't really understand what data science is. They don't really know statistics or analytics. When I saw at AWS reInvent, Andy Jassy is the head of AWS, and he was announcing SageMaker. And he said, we built SageMaker because software engineers don't know data science. They don't have any time to learn it. And so we built something for them so they can be data scientists. And I just thought to myself, wow, that's like wrong. Like, you can't just do that. But this is a big debate in the industry now, right? Which is there should be an easy button. You put your data in a hopper and you turn a crank and out comes a predictive model and you build your business around that. In some cases you bet the farm on that, right? Citizen data scientists will surpass data scientists by 2019. That's Gartner's take. My take and our take at Domino on that really is a little bit different, which is that feels a lot like Clippy from Microsoft. I don't know how many people actually had Clippy, but I did, and boy, it was the most annoying thing. So what's our view? Our view is this, that high stakes work and really complicated models take experts. And the value from doing it right is huge, and the value from doing it wrong is nil. Interestingly, other research reports kind of show the same thing. So this is a, I stripped out the fine print as to who did this analysis. I think this was McKinsey, actually. But looking at the companies that are winning in predictive analytics and data science, what they have is teams of data scientists collaborating, working together, doing hard work, doing real R&D to build predictive models to actually deliver value to the company. And I want to switch gears to talk about like a couple examples of that, Bridgewater and Renaissance Capital. So people may not know that the founding team from Domino was at Bridgewater, and Nick Alperin, the CEO, always likes to say that Bridgewater wasn't any different from other companies. They were just probably a few years ahead on the problems they were trying to solve because they'd always been worried about data science. And then Renaissance Capital is another big hedge fund that's famous for its use of data science. If you haven't read Ray Dalio's book Principles, it's free. You can download it. It's not something you have to buy on Amazon. And it's actually really interesting. And he talks a lot about kind of his view of data and models and understanding and decision making. So his view is, essentially I won't read this except for to point out the idea that data science lets you make less emotional decisions. You can make fact-based decisions. That comes up in the Renaissance Capital. Their fund, by the way, is just killing it in terms of returns. It's like huge. And what their co-founder talks about is this idea that if you're going to use models, you have to use them truly devoted. You can't just have a model and then look at it and say, does that feel right? And if it feels right, you're going to go with it. You have to do what the model tells you to do. And I want to bring that back to Deal or Tire, right? Because Deal or Tire isn't like a cutting edge hedge fund or a huge bank. I think they're based in Cincinnati. They're a tire company. You wouldn't think of that as being a company that says we are going to be making huge business decisions based on predictive models, but they've built that into their business. It's part of their process and it's delivering value that they measure. And everyone, the executive team knows data science at Deal or Tire is core to their strategy. And by the way, Bridgewater and Renaissance are two of the top performing hedge funds and have been for years. And this is at a time when actually a lot of hedge funds have been shutting down. So it's interesting, and you see this, a lot of the big banks like JP Morgan and Goldman are firing thousands of analysts who are making these kind of gut decisions because they're saying actually human decision making just doesn't compete with model decision making. And that's what Renaissance and that's what Bridgewater have been saying for a very long time. One more number, McKinsey is looking at this the exact same way we are. And they're saying that companies that are adopting predictive model development are seeing incredible returns on that investment, and it's changing the nature of their business. Companies that are lagging, they predict a horrible outcome for. And I had to use the dinosaur slide. This is like one of Nick's favorites. And it's interesting, this is a good analogy, right? Which is, for a lot of businesses, what you're seeing is kind of an extinction level event. It's a bad analogy because I just listened to a podcast that said that when the asteroid hit, the dinosaurs had about 3 hours. It's fascinating. So ask me about that in the Tonga room if you are interested in dinosaurs. But if you're interested in data science, the analogy doesn't work because what we're seeing is an evolution, right? Companies are adapting and evolving, and it's going to be years and years for companies to kind of make that journey. But I'm glad folks are here today because that journey is like coming to things like this and networking with people in the room and around that can learn from you and that you can learn from them. And that's really what we want to do for the rest of today. So we have a great agenda. We have some workshops. We have some case studies. We have a fireside chat without a fireplace. We have a networking reception in the Tonga room. And I'm hoping that what people will do is learn from each other, share ideas, get to know each other, and sort of help build a little bit of a data science community around the work that we're doing here. So with that, I'd like to say thank you all very much for coming. I really appreciate the turnout. And I'm going to hand it over to Josh Podeska and James Meadow from Domino and Slalom, respectively. And we're going to start with our first kind of real session, which is how do you build a data science center of excellence?